What's up, guys? Luke here from Spotlight on Spurs. Welcome back to the third episode of my Spurs preview. This time up, we have Jords on Durag Diaries. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Pleasure to be here yet again. Make my appearance on Spotlight on Spurs. Make sure you guys are showing your love to new channels, man. Because new here, but he's fastly growing. So make sure you're supporting.
Mate, we're out here grinding. You know how it is. You're doing the same thing. So yeah, pleasure to have you on yet again. Thank you for all your help and support. As I said, all of the links to Jords will be in the description. It's obviously be tagged in the title as well. So go and show some love if you haven't already. Just hit 3K. We rode to 5K now.
Road to 5K, man. You know what? I'm trying to get 4K before the end of the month. I'm being extremely ambitious. I'm going crazy.
You need to be. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's see if we can get a few more subs over there. Let's get 4K by the end of the month. Let's see if we can do it. Right. Let's start. Same 10 questions. Every single guest. Some of you will already be aware now. We've already done 2 of them. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to have probably like 3 a week coming out. So let's start with the first question. We're going to go to last season. We're not going to go there for too much. But what was your thoughts on last season?
Successful season. Successful year. For me, football, there's only one currency. That's trophies. If you lift the trophy, it's a successful year. Away from that, I forgot about everything else that happened. I'll be honest. I don't even know. I don't even know about the Premier League. Don't know where we finished. Don't know how many games we lost. Don't even remember. All I know is we lifted a trophy. It was successful. Yeah, we parted ways with our manager because things just didn't work out the way we needed them to be. But we're in a new, better pastures, a whole change of Tottenham. It wasn't just a change of manager, change of board, change of structure. It's refreshing. We left the past. We're leaving it in the past. So my thoughts on last season, successful. That's it.
Do you know what's quite funny? If you haven't already done so, go and watch the last episode that we done. This question was virtually exactly the same answer. It was basically all I'm counting is the Europa League final. Everything else is just a forgotten memory. It's blurred. I don't remember none of it. That's exactly it. At the end of the day, we won the trophy. And also, I'm pretty sure it meant that you got a prediction quite right when it was 1 Spurs guy against 5 Arsenal guys. Is that not correct?
They got cooked. Man. I made it very clear that we'd win a trophy before them. I let them know that those bums can't. We see all those tweets. You retire from winning trophies when you go top. No. When you go Arsenal, you retire from winning trophies. So no, I said that we'd win a trophy before Arsenal. This is in March of last year. So this was in the pomp of their Champions League run, and they thought that they were going to do something massive. And I was like, we're going to win Europa League. I ain't even worried. So that's exactly how it played out. It was a good prediction. I put myself on the line and it paid off. So, yeah, man, it felt real good to have that one pay off. I'm not going to lie, because it cooked. And I even see the video was doing so much. I see Jermaine Genius even commenting over there. I was like, yo, Jermaine Genius, the guy that I grew up watching, is even seeing me put my club on the map. Yo, this is where it needs to be.
Stay with chess. Sometimes it happens. Love to see it. Right. So that is the thoughts on last season. Obviously, as you've already mentioned, we did go and we changed, obviously, moved over from Ange into Frank's appointment. What are your overall thoughts on Frank's appointment?
Thomas Frank is when he first came in, I'll be honest, I wasn't a massive fan. Thomas Frank wasn't my number one choice of manager. I was of the thought that Tottenham need a proven manager. After winning a trophy, it's like you get a taste of blood, like with Wolves and Sharks. You start circling. I want more. And my thought was that we need a manager that's been there, done that, that's won stuff, so we can take this squad, breed that mentality that we've got, that they've just had, develop them and take that forward to win some more trophies. Now, I am of the understanding that Spurs never really succeed with those managers. Conte, Mourinho, whenever we have win now managers, Spurs just don't succeed because we're a project club who like to sign young players who are going to build on from a project. So I think Thomas Frank is a good appointment for us, and I was happy with the appointment once I actually evaluated it and I sat down and was like, do you know what can Thomas Frank do for Tottenham? I was like, yeah, this is a good appointment. Like, he's had a good couple of years at Brentford. He never overachieved with Brentford, but he never underachieved. He always maintained a good coaching level. He always made sure that some players were outperforming what was expected from them. He coached players like Benrahma, who eventually got a move to West Ham when he was in the Championship. Watkins, who got a move to Aston Villa. Even Neil Maupay, when he originally got his move to Brighton. And then again, you've got players like Mbeumo and Wissa who have now orchestrated their own moves in this summer transfer window. So how can I forget David Ryan and Ivan Toney as well? So he's had a plethora of players that have just constantly, every year he loses one of his best players, but he continued to just carry on developing. And you've seen Wissa and Mbeumo have been there for 4 or 5 years. Those players have only just had their best seasons because once the other players have been going, they're getting more of an opportunity, and he's developing, working with them. So, yeah, no, I'm definitely happy with the Thomas Frank appointment after the evaluation, but I was hesitant at first.
No, I completely agree, and that was exactly what I was saying. If we get rid of Ange, then I want to get someone in that's going to be proven at a Champions League sort of level, which is obviously what we've qualified for. I didn't think Frank was that because he's never done that sort of thing, but completely agree. Once you start looking into it, there's a lot of things that we want to do as a club, and Frank kind of aligns to a lot of them. For me, there are some still concerns, but we'll discuss that in a few questions' time. So obviously, what do you think you will see from Frank coming into Spurs? This doesn't just have to be around the tactical aspect. It could be around the culture that he creates, the sort of person that he is, even maybe, for instance, what he'll bring in press conferences. Say, what do you think he's going to bring to Spurs as a whole?
Yeah, I think mentioning the press conferences is great, to be fair, because when Ange first come in, a lot of people were, and myself, we liked how honest Ange could be in his press conferences and how open he was. But over the time, you started to realize how salty he was, how much pride and ego he used to lead with in those press conferences. A lot of the questions were, if someone said something he didn't like, he just bite back at them. Didn't really care whether to answer it. He just bite back and he just snap back. And you know, we all have our moments, but for a manager of a club as big as ours, we need our manager to be very calm and composed in those scenarios, being able to handle themselves. I think Frank's definitely that. He seems very calm, cool, collected at all points. You don't really see him go too mad on the touchline. He seems to be a guy that's a coach first, works with players, trying to develop players. I know I saw the tweet yesterday or something come out saying Thomas Frank will coach Tottenham players. And I was like, yeah, look, I get the banter because a lot of people think Thomas Frank's going to do some miracle jobs, but no, he actually is a proper coach first. And like when we had Pochettino, you saw loads of players come through Pochettino that weren't that great, but he turned them in. Kyle Walker become one, if not one of the best right backs in the Premier League ever because of what Pochettino took him from and being just that raw, fast right back, but to being a more complete attacking but also defensive player. I think Frank can bring that to Tottenham. So I think he's going to work with developing the players we've got right now, but work with developing those youngsters. I'm really looking forward to him to work with some of the young players. We've got the Bergvals, the Archie Grays, the Donleys, the Lancashires, the Takais, the Yamin Hyoks, the Mikey Moores. Just we've got so many young players right now, and we need a coach that can get the best out of them. I think Thomas Frank could be that guy.
Yeah, I completely agree. The young players could end up, well, it seems to be, we say this under every single manager, to be honest, because as you said, that's what we target. We don't go and sign ready-made players, although maybe you could say that we're kind of leaning that. Again, we'll discuss that a bit later. But it's the young players all the time that it's how we manage them, it's how we develop them, and not only just as Thomas Frank, but if we're loaning them out, are we loaning them to the right clubs? Which again, that's a criticism I've had of Spurs for a number of years now. We can use Scarlett, we can use Devine. As how many loans have they gone on where they've either sat on the bench, it's not worked out, whatever. It's far too many. But yeah, I do think the young players are going to be key to this reign, and hopefully he's a manager that can sort of develop. He's definitely better in that aspect than Ange was. That's for sure. Obviously, don't mean to go without. Hopefully, there's not too many concerns, but this doesn't have to be solely around Frank. This could be around the players that we're targeted, the kind of lack of what there seems to be as alternatives at the moment to, say, a Morgan Gibbs-White. At the time of recording, Morgan Gibbs-White's not over the line, which obviously it hasn't been for any of the guests previously. That may change. Hopefully, that will change for some of us. But what are your concerns currently right now with Tottenham?
I'll be honest, transfers are definitely a concern. I've always maintained that we need one marquee signing in for the preseason, but I think if we had majority of our signings in before preseason, so if the Morgan Gibbs-White deal was put over the line, I'd be a lot more calm. I'd be fine because I'd feel like, okay, 2 key starter players, because Morgan Gibbs-White will come in to start, so will Kudus. So 2 of those players in the lineup before our preseason tour, okay, that's fine. You've got plenty of time to work with prior going into the season. I ain't got no concerns, but my concern is that we're focusing too much on getting this Morgan Gibbs-White deal done, that we're letting other players and other clubs pick up some of these other players during that same time. I've seen we've looked at Paulinho and some other ones, and I'm like, okay, fine, but can we get these done? I don't feel like we can afford to be waiting until we come back from our preseason tour, because we've got some big games in that tour that I feel like some of these players could be assessed in. You can assess how we're going to use the team. You got Arsenal, Newcastle, and Bayern. 3 teams we could play in the Champions League next year. 3 Champions League level clubs that you would use those games to really prepare yourself for the season, but also those Champions League level games we're going to be playing in. So I am concerned that Spurs haven't made more signings. I think we need another 2 or 3 more players. Definitely 2 first-team players and then maybe another one in the squad depth side. But yeah, I just think right now, going into preseason with just Kudus, it doesn't fill me with confidence. It doesn't fill me with enough confidence.
No, I completely agree. Moving on then, who do you think that Spurs should be signing?
Ooh. Sell or
sorry. Who should Spurs be selling?
Okay, yeah. I'll just make sure. So we need a few players gone. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna keep it quite frank. I think Basuma needs to be out the door. Ben Davies. Ben Davies is a tricky one because he doesn't really offer anything anyway. He's not on massive money. He could be in and around the squad, and I wouldn't really have that much. It'd be fine. So if we don't sell Ben Davies, fine, it's not a problem to me. I think Gil and Solomon are 2 players that we need to get rid of. There's no space in the squad for them, nor are either of them good enough. I'd say away from that, I'm trying to think of players now.
The rumours recently, especially yesterday, you've got Son, obviously.
And Sonny, yes, I was going to say that as well. So I'd say, so you got Basuma, Gil, Solomon, Richarlison has to go. Richarlison's been taken up too much. For one, I know he's on a hefty wage. He's not on a cheap wage. He's on about, I think, 60 to 90k a week. He's on something quite hefty. I think 90 or maybe even 100. He's on a hefty wage. On top of the fact that he's never available, doesn't really score too much. He's just not a good player. Don't think he'll work in this system. So we need to get him gone, especially with it being a World Cup year. We should be letting him know that you're not going to be getting minutes. So if you want to be playing in the World Cup, you need to go elsewhere. Sonny, the one you just mentioned there, I think it's more of a case of, I don't want to sell Son, but I think it'd be the best year to get rid of Son. I think we've had the fairy tale happy ending. The ending that Harry Kane didn't get is the ending that Sonny's going to get. And even Lloris, because Lloris is the one that's doing up agent, trying to bring him to LAFC. He was our captain, and he ended in a horrible way. Remember the way the last few months he ended with that Newcastle game, walking out at half time. Like, all these other players that were at our club for a long time didn't have the great endings. Yep. Sonny can be the first guy to end it on a happy note. Now, we see in other sports far too often, players go past their prime and keep going, and they get to 40 and they're trying to play and then they just wash themselves out because you've watched them for the last 5 years just be rubbish. Yep. And I don't want Sonny to have that stain on his Spurs career, because the last 2 or 3 seasons haven't been the Sonny that we know. And albeit he's 30 years old, so I don't expect to see that Sonny. But if he does stay in that year, it'll probably be another stain on his name, because I get to the point of when I'm watching, I'm like, bro, get Sonny off the pitch. You're not good enough. And I don't want to feel like that, because I actually love Sonny so much, but I love my club more than I love players. So if my team's not winning and the player on the pitch isn't doing good enough, get him off the pitch. So yeah, unfortunately, I think this would be the best year. Get rid of Son. 20-25 mil. Apparently, it's all in his hands as well. So if he's happy to go, we're happy to get money, move him on. And then away from that, I think we could risk, and I think we could definitely risk selling someone in that forward line, whether that be Jono, whether that be Amadas, whether that be, I don't think Kulu wouldn't be able to go because of his injury. But a player of that, I wouldn't mind being open to selling those to bring in funds, because we keep hearing that Spurs don't have cash. Romero was going to be that player to bring in the cash, but obviously David Hanko was signed by Atletico Madrid, so they're not going to be looking at a centre-back anymore, and Romero, that was his only other option. So it looks like Romero's staying at Spurs, which I'm happy about. I'm definitely very happy about Romero staying, but we're going to need to bring money in elsewhere. So whether that be Amadas or Jono, I don't know, but somebody's gonna have to be that player.
You mentioned it there about Son. That, as you said, it looks as if that he's going to have the option to decide what he wants to do. So if he wants to go, we'll sell him, and if he wants to stay, he'll stay. I'm happy for that as long as Frank dictates, if he stays, what his position will be. So in terms of, he may say, you're going to stay, but you're going to be a bench player for me, and that's it. I think that if Son does end up staying, I think that if he's closer to the goal in what we believe will be Frank's tactic in terms of not being a touchline winger, be more of an inside forward, I still think he's a brilliant finisher. I think he can bring something to Spurs. However, he's not the guy anymore for me. He's not going to be, as you said, there's been occasions where I've watched the game going, he needs to come off, and Son has never been that for Spurs. He's always been the guy you want to keep on because he can just finish. So, yeah, completely agree. I think the Sonny situation probably hinders on a lot of different things, and there's probably a lot of players that could go out the door and we'll potentially get replacements in, but it's whether they do go out the door. You've kind of touched on it already with your concerns of Spurs. Are you happy with the business so far? And then we'll caveat that if we added Morgan Gibbs-White in, I think you said you would be, but you wouldn't be without him. Is that?
Yeah, that's literally that. So at the moment, I'm not happy with the business so far. And again, I'm not even the biggest Morgan Gibbs-White fan. I don't think that he's the needle mover that we necessarily needed, but it's just a case of getting bodies in and improvements on the current players we have. He's an improvement on the current player we have. So if we get Kudus and MGW, it's like, okay, I can't be mad. 115 million pounds spent. Before we've been into August, 2 big players, 2 starters. Last year, I asked for 3 starters. I got 1. If I can get 2 this year, that's already double the amount that we got last season. So, yeah, I think at the moment I'm hesitant to say I'm happy about it, but I'm not like fuming about the business. I'm very far from that. Kudus was an absolutely amazing signing for us. Like, I think he's a game changer, massive one.
And we can't go over the top, can we? Because let's be honest, at one stage we were sitting there going, we've got no one. Kudos was announced. We got the here we go of Morgan Gibbs-White within 24 hours of that. If we move like that, we get Gibbs-White and then someone else over the line fairly quickly. You go from being, I'm really unhappy to the business to, wow, we've made 3 first team improvements. When was the last time we went into a season and actually improved starting 11 with 3? And also, I know people may go back to the whole Ange first season when we lost. I think Lloris went out the door. We had Kane go, and we brought in
Madders, Van der Ven.
However, a lot of them, you can say Van der Ven was successful, and you could say Vicario maybe to a degree has been successful, but they weren't proven players. So they were gambles at the time. So it's almost like, and again, you go back to Van der Ven, there was uproar because everybody thought that Todibo was the one, or Tapsoba was the one, and then we went for the cheaper option. So it didn't really feel everyone like, but I feel like with Kudos and Morgan Gibbs-White, I think both improve our 11. And I'm fairly sure that there was no YouTubers that mentioned their names when we were talking about who we want to come in. And personally, the reason why I didn't include them too was because I didn't think they were feasible options. I can't see a Spurs go into a West Ham, who are a rival, and spending 55 million. I can't see them going to Nottingham Forest and bringing in what is one of their captains. I just couldn't see it from us. So hopefully it's a deviation away from.
I'm not gonna lie. When I did see Chelsea, because I heard about the Kudus being offered to Chelsea, I think the back end when I first started my Tottenham transfer news show. So it's the back like a week after the Europa League final, like the start of June. I remember when I saw like Chelsea were offered him, and I was like, at that point, I was like, bro, if Chelsea are getting offered Kudus, bring that guy. But like you, I thought West Ham aren't gonna do business with us. Like they're gonna just play hard to play, and we saw that. That's exactly how it played out. Just not as bad as this Marinakis guy, bro. He's just a nightmare. Yeah, man. Because the thing is, he fleeced us for Jono already. Remember when we had to agree? We agreed a fee for 40, and they're like, no, we want an extra 5 now. So there was 45 plus 5, and it's like, bro, we gave you 50 million for him. We're giving you another 60 for MJ. So we're giving you 110 million for 2 players, and you're still complaining, bro. This guy's a crook. It's a crook.
He is. He's been making his way around the Spurs fan base. That's for sure. So obviously not at the moment. We're currently going off of what we've got right now. Not happy with the business. Who should Spurs be bringing in? And also give us your number 1 target. It can be Morgan Gibbs-White if that's your guy. Obviously, just to keep everyone updated, the Palhinha links intensified yesterday. Apparently, it looks like we're kind of pushing ahead with that. Whether that will be the one guy we get over the line, I don't know. There's been mentions of Douglas Luiz, who refused to go to training for Juventus. There's been other names mentioned. João Gomez from Wolves, for instance. Walton has also been linked time and time again. There's been potential that a lot of fans are saying that we need some sort of cover at left back. Who do you think Spurs should be bringing in, like realistically? And then, as I said, your number 1 target. Who's the one guy you think, yeah, we need to get him over the line?
Well, I'll say my number one target first because I feel like all my targets are being taken by Chelsea, bruv. I feel like they've been watching my. You remember we spoke so much times, and I've hyped up João Pedro and Xavi Simons. I said, bro, bring these players to Spurs. I think they're gonna be like neck. I was so ready to see both of them in Spurs shirts because the versatility, what we need. You need to play like João Pedro to play off the left and also play in the middle. You got versatile and you. Just in those little Club World Cup moments, people are actually seeing he just needs the platform on a bigger team. He is cold. Like he will be Brazil's number 9 going into the World Cup. And then Xavi Simons right now, I suppose that would be my number one target, but he looks like he's going to be a Chelsea player in the next couple of days. So I'm fuming about that because we need a number like we need a versatile player that can play off the left, play in the middle, play maybe behind in the 8 as well. Xavi Simons is that guy. For me, he'd be. I don't think he's similar enough to Morgan Gibbs-White because he's more attacking than him.
Yeah.
But Xavi Simons would have been that guy for me to really improve our attack. It's not too much of an investment. It's about £60 million, €60 million they want for him. That was my number one target. I'm not going to lie. Xavi Simons was my number one target for this window.
I'm also going to follow that up in the show that we done recently. I brought up, I think we should be going for Hato and Chelsea.
Hey, Joel Hato. Yes, I remember. Bro, Chelsea's board been watching our fucking... Go away, Chelsea, man. Then I'm actually so annoyed that Chelsea get they get every good talent. Like, they're just greedy, man. They're so greedy. It infuriates me. But who should we bring in right now? I think Douglas Luiz, for me, is a no-brainer. And I can't understand why Spurs haven't pulled the trigger on trying to make that deal happen. For me, you're looking at a player that can play in the 6, can play in the 8, can play in a double pivot. When you talk about his all-round qualities, he's pretty much an all-round midfielder. So if you need somebody to come in, be a depth option or be a starting option, he could be that guy. Just not last year, the year before at Aston Villa, he's one of the best midfielders in the league. He was cold. Like when Emery came in, the guy transformed his game. Set pieces as well. How could I forget? Scoring corners, bruv. Like the guy's an absolute gem. I just can't understand why Spurs haven't made a move on him. If not him, João Paulinho's I'd be cool with. I think João Paulinho's not as good as Douglas Luiz for me because he's just a complete ball destroyer. But I think we might need that because I remember the times under Pochettino when we had Wanyama next to Dembele. I think Paulinho's that Wanyama type. He's just going to break down the game. And then if you have Morgan Gibbs-White next to him, you've got someone who's a proper deep line playmaker who can drive forward but also play those passes through. So I could imagine seeing him in a double pivot and making it work. Away from that, another player that I've talked, Igor Paschal. I've seen Leeds were interested in, but if Spurs want a fairly cheaper winger target, which is going to be a risk, but from looking at the raw quality that he has it all. We could go in for a play like that, and he could potentially be our option off the left. So it could also be there, but I think we definitely need to sign someone in at the back to be a competition for. I was going to say a backup for Udogie, but he's too young to have a backup. He needs to be a competition for Udogie. That's been the problem with Spurs far too often is we sign players as backups rather than sign players as competition. And that's where I'm at with a striker as well. We need a striker that can compete with Solanke. Now, if we don't bring in somebody who's going to play off the left wing, and we bring in someone who can play left wing and striker like the Leon guy, everyone comes up my chat to He can play off the left. He can play in the strike. I wouldn't mind bringing in a player like that can compete with Solanke for his position, but also play on the wing when Tell Odebert's not performing up to key. So I think we just need to make sure we're signing players that are potentially versatile, and there's a few there that we could go for.
There seems to be a theme. Virtually everyone has been saying it, not just in streams, on this as well. We need to go with a left-footed centre-back / left-back for some competition there from rotation. We need a more defensive-minded central midfielder and another attacker, whether that be just a striker, one that plays on the wing, whether that plays both, whatever. So everyone seems to have very, very similar. João Paulinho, for me, very similar to what you said. He is a destroyer type, and if we was in Angie's system, he would have been almost my number one target. However, in Frank's system, I don't think you need the destroyer as much. However, saying that, I think if he comes in, he would be a good option. He will bring stuff that we don't necessarily have. However, I would be targeting a more ball-playing central midfielder who can do defensive side as opposed to a straight-up destroyer. I completely agree. Xavi Simons would have been my number to target if Morgan Gibbs-White don't get over the line for exactly the reason you mentioned. I think that Gibbs-White is able to operate a little bit deeper, and I think that's the sort of target that we're looking at.
Yeah.
If we're I can imagine Morgan Gibbs-White playing quite a lot in an 8, but I can imagine Simmons only playing in an 8 if we are playing against the Burnley, if we're playing against a team we're really, really going to dominate. If we're going into a difficult game, I think you'd probably want Simmons a bit further out the pitch. But he was, if we didn't get Morgan Gibbs-White, he was 100% the next player in line for me. Just, again, because of the Premier League experience as well. That's another part.
I had him above Eze. That's how much I rate him. I had him above Eze. Like, I was like, bring me Simmons above Eze. Like, this guy is so cold. He's got the talent that can really be like a world-class level player, but he just needs someone. He needs a home. He's had far too many moves. He just needs a home, and he needs a manager that's going to love him and coach him and help him really develop his game.
People forget that this is a kid that's been touted as a future star since he was like 12 years old. Like he's been Barcelona Academy, PSG's, Leipzig. He's literally been a star player since he was like 12, 13 years old. So this is a player that's really experienced. He's used to having that sort of hype around him because he's played with it. He's literally his whole career. So I think he's going to be a top player wherever he goes. But it just seems Chelsea are taking all the players, mate. Hato would have been perfect for what we need. João Pedro would have been perfect for off the left or striker. And then Xavi Simons or Morgan Gibbs-White. And I think actually Spurs have got their business near enough done with them signing. So, Chelsea snapping everybody up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
These ones we're moving on to now. Last few questions. These ones are a little bit more quick fire, or if you want to go into more detail, then obviously it's entirely up to you. But what's the one to watch this season for you? And obviously your one to watch doesn't necessarily, I know primarily that's kind of focused on a young player. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. For instance, Kudos just signed in first season back at Spurs, for instance. He could be your one to watch. You've got your Bergvalls, Grays, could even be like an outside shot, like a Moore. Who's the one player, Vuskovic even, who's the one player that you're sitting there going, he's one I really want to keep an eye on and keen to see this season?
Like man, you just said there last, man. Luka Vuskovic. Last year when I done this, I said it would be Lucas Bergvall, because what I saw in preseason, I'd already seen enough, and I was like, yo, this guy is it. Vuskovic. I've been keeping tabs on this guy for a while. But he is literally a physical specimen. He's built too big for it. For 18, he's bigger than man. Like, I'm pretty sure he's bigger than me. I got like he's nearly 10 years of him. He's fucking massive. He's like 6'3". He's still growing. He's 6'5".
He's 6'5". He was in a picture yesterday that Spurs tweeted. There was a training ground game, and he's standing over Romero as if Romero's just a little guy. He's literally over the top of him. I mean, width-wise, height-wise.
See, that's the mean. I wouldn't be surprised by that, because I know it was only a year ago that he was 6'3" at like 17. He's still growing. He's only just turned 18, so he's still growing. And the thing is about him is, you can look at a Van de Ven who's tall, but he's slender. He's not slender. He's actually brick. Like, he looks like he's going to be solid. And seeing the finish the other day, that with his weak foot into the bottom corner with nuts, his aerial dominance, his physical just strength, and his ability to go into challenges. He doesn't show no fear. He's a player that seems like he's already feeling like he feels at home at Tottenham. He feels comfortable. He doesn't look scared. So that would be my player to watch. I think he's going to get a lot more minutes than people think. I think he'll end up being ahead of Dragusin in the lineups. So yeah, no, I think for me, Vuskovic definitely.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I do think Bergvall is going to be really interesting to see how he adapts to this style of play. I think if we get in an experienced pro in that midfield, a Palhinha type, I think it'll be really good for him to learn from. I'm excited to see what Archie Gray becomes under this manager as well, knowing that he wanted him at Brentford. I think Archie Gray, we didn't really see the best of him last year. So, but Vuskovic, if we have to calm ourselves down a little bit, because we do this every year with every single young player, but just from the outskirts, it does look like he's going to be a very, very good player. And I can see him staying around and being involved with the first team as well this year. There's been talk about him going out on loan, but I personally can't see it. And then your hot take for the 25-26, you already delivered last year when you said Spurs will win a trophy before Arsenal. So you've got some reputation to keep up here. What would be your hot take? It doesn't have to be Spurs related, but it'd be great if you can keep it. Just to give you a heads up, the two that have already previously been, one thinks that we'd finish in the top 4, and the other one said top 6 is their hot takes.
Top 6 is a hot take.
Top 6 is a difficult one. Obviously, let's just be completely honest here. It's on the basis at this moment in time that we don't have Gibbs-White over the line as well. So at the moment, it looks like all we've got is one signing that's going to improve us. Other teams, Gyökeres, for instance, Liverpool, they're all kind of making some moves. So, that's where we sit. But what's your almost prediction, if you like?
Now, my hot take is we finish above Newcastle. I'm seeing all this news, how they're all being falling out. They're being rejected left, right, and center. They can't sign nobody to replace Isak. And if they do, it's going to be like Benjamin Tesco. So I'm saying we finish above Newcastle. And for me, that's a big hot take because the whole summer prior to this news regarding Isak, I've been sitting there and I'm like, we need to close the gap on Newcastle and Chelsea. I think with no Isak, that gap closes pretty quickly. So yeah, that's my hot take. I think we finish above Newcastle, man.
Does that put you in? Does that put you in a?
That puts us in the top 6. It puts us in the top 6. Now I don't know whether it puts us in Champions League. Now I'm going to be cheeky. It could say that it puts us in 5th, but it depends how low Newcastle finish. So I'm just going to say we finish above Newcastle right now. Because obviously for me, when I look at them, they're the 5th best team in the league, isn't it? So that's what when I'm using that for context. I'm saying like the other teams could improve a lot more depending on how signings hand out, but will we better than the 5th best team from last season? What I'm saying.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I definitely think it's a hot take. I think Newcastle's midfield is absolutely incredible. This window has been quite poor for them. They've been rejected by quite a few players. Even today, James Trafford's turned around and said, "No, I'm going to go and probably chill on the bench at City for a year before I take number 1." So they've had a pretty poor window. And then Isaac News as well. They was in for Ekatike. Liverpool took him. If they come and take Isaac as well,
they wanted Simmons as well. Simmons said no. Yeah, so they've been rejected a lot.
Well, let's see. But Spurs are going to finish above Newcastle. Jords has already got previous. He knows what he's talking about, and he delivers on his when he makes statements. He delivers. So, last but not least, what are your expectations for the season? So, this is based on all of the different cups that we're in. A lot of people are forgetting that we are in the Super Cup. So, we'll start there. What are your thoughts and feelings around the Super Cup, and what are your expectations?
I think we win the Super Cup. Well, I'd say at least go to penalties. I think
that's got to be your hot take. Hey, your hot take is not we beat PSG.
You know what it is, yeah?
Unbelievable a couple of months ago.
It is. But watching that Chelsea game just made me like these PSG guys are humans. They're not as good as many people think. They can be broken down, and it is just a game of tactics. You tactically set up the right way, you beat that team. So it humbled a lot of people's thoughts on PSG as a team. But starting there, I think we'd at least get to penalty. I don't think they're going to hammer us. I think we're actually going to go to extra time, and it's going to be pushed. If they win, it'll be a very tight win for them.
Also, if anyone that isn't aware, I did say it on previous episodes, but I'll probably say it in most of the episodes. But by the UEFA law, PSG have to only allowed to bring players back. They have to give holiday until 2 days before the cup final. So you have to have a 3-week rest before you're allowed to come back into competition. However, the player themselves can choose to come back early. So PSG will say that they have to return, and it's either 2 or 3 days before the cup final. But as I said, the players can choose to come back early. However, caveat that in that they went to the Champions League final. They done the obviously the Cup final.
When some of those players should play Nations League in between that time as well.
So a lot of them may say, look, just for my own career, I don't think coming back early is the main priority. And I think this is definitely one of them cups that if they're not going to be that fussed about it really in the grand scheme of things, I don't think so.
And even if they do come back, they might not come back in the best shape. Because like I said, they've just come back from holiday. If you've come back even just, let's say you've come back 5 days before a game, you've been on holiday for 3 weeks, drinking and eating, and you're probably not in the best shape for pre-season. You need to get back into the running, the treadmills and all that, bro. I think we might catch them at a bad time. In the other competitions, the FA Cup presents an opportunity. I will say that. The FA Cup presents an opportunity. I think Carabao Cup, we probably go out around the quarters. And it always gets tough for us in and around that December period. Because, December is just hectic. And I know I looked at our period again. Pretty sure we got Liverpool right before Christmas again. Like we got all these tough games, so I'm pretty sure the Carabao Cup we go out around the quarters. Champions League, I think we'll get through to the playoff round, after the playoff round. So we'll get through to the knockout stage. Not really too sure if we'll go much further than that. I'd say maybe knockouts or quarters. So the FA Cup's really the only competition that presents an opportunity for us to potentially win. And then I'd say in the Premier League, top 6, innit? I think that's my expectations. Getting to the top 6, no less than that, man. Like anything below the top 6, unacceptable. Unless there's some mad circumstances that happens. If we finish outside the top 6, I will not be happy. So top 6.
And then Champions League, obviously, you've got the top 8 will go automatically through. Then you've got the next 8, I think, go playoffs, and then the bottom are cut from the competition. Would you expect Spurs to get through to at least the playoffs, like the knockout stages?
Yeah. So it's what the top. You have the top 8, and then you have the bottom 16 or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah,
they
play each other.
Well, I think we go into those playoffs most definitely. We'll make it into the playoffs. I think we get through to the playoffs, but then the round after that is probably where we might struggle. And especially with the new format, you can finish fucking 12th, or you can finish like 20th and still get Man City because they decided to finish 10th or 12th. Like, so
Madrid were a prime example. They played, they got into the playoffs and then ended up having a tough one. Obviously, they went on a decent run in the end, but 100%, I agree. I think actually Carabao Cup could end up being an almost youth team. We're in so many different competitions. Players like Vuskovic, Archie Gray, Bergvall, if he does get minutes, Mikey Moores, if he stays around, all of these players could end up being almost like a Carling Cup team, because we are focusing on. I think obviously with regards to Ange, we hadn't won a trophy in so long. Anytime we went out of a competition was absolute nightmare. Whereas this year, I think if we started to play some young players in the Carabao Cup, obviously if we went out, it'd still be disappointing. But I think this could be a real blood in. I remember back in the guys down the road used to always have Carabao Cup, Carling Cup always used to be youth teams. You know that their youth team is going to be playing game after game. So that could end up being, if we get some decent draws, it could end up being a really good learning curve for the youth players. Mate, that is all of the questions. So I completely agree, especially with the expectations at the end. I think it would be brilliant to be able to, if Frank got a trophy in his first competitive game, be absolutely brilliant. And I kind of agree. Obviously, a lot of the cups competitions, it goes on who you draw. You could just have the luck of the draw where you draw City, or you could end up just getting lower league teams throughout your whole run. So a lot of it does depend on that. But I think the word seems to be competitive. We seem to be that people want to make sure that if we're going out against very good opposition, and we're not rolling over like we did in the Liverpool semi-final, second leg, that sort of thing. So, guys, I'm sure you have already, but if you haven't, please like the video, subscribe to Spotlight on Spurs, and of course, Durag Diaries, who's joined us today. Thank you very much for the support. We are pushing on now to 2K. I want to get there as soon as possible. We've already discussed the Jords target for the end of this month, and obviously we want to push on. Just everyone that is in the Spurs community, just sub to them, just like their videos, even if their content is different to what you expect or what you agree with. We're all here. We all want the same thing. We all want Spurs to carry on doing well and hopefully winning more trophies, signing more players, and pushing up that league. So massive thank you to Jordan for coming on yet again. What you got coming up on your channel, mate?
Live every day, man. Live every day in the week. Weekends sometimes take. To be fair, we got friendlies tomorrow, so I'm going to be watching those 2 friendlies. 10 a.m. and then 1 p.m.
11. I think it's 11 and 3. Someone said.
Yeah, something like that. I know it's a morning then afternoon game, so we'll probably see some reviews to those games. It's just there's content coming every day. Subscribe to the channel, tap the post notification bell, and you'll be up to date, man.
100%. Thank you very much, and as always, come on, you Spurs.